I heard them arguing through the thin motel walls all night, shouting, slamming doors. Even the sound of something breaking. But when I knocked on their door the next morning, it swung open to reveal untouched luggage, a perfectly made bed, and silence. The clerk swore no one had checked into that room in weeks. I was on the road for work, driving through a stretch of rural highway that seemed to go on forever. By the time I pulled into the Pine Shadow Motel, it was close to midnight. The neon sign buzzed faintly. Half the letters burned out, so it just read Pine Shad. The parking lot was nearly empty, the asphalt cracked and glistening from a recent rain. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of stale coffee and cigarette smoke. The clerk was an older man with a sunken face and watery eyes. He barely looked up as I signed the register. "Room 6, he muttered. "End of the hall." That's when I heard it. At first, just muffled voices through the wall. A man and a woman. Their words were indistinct, but the tone was unmistakable. Sharp, angry, escalating. The fight grew louder. I could hear every word now. The man's voice was harsh, filled with venom. The woman's was shrill, desperate, breaking into sobs. Something heavy slammed against the wall, rattling the headboard of my bed. And then, whispering, a woman's voice, right against the wall behind my head. "He's not going to let us leave." The next morning, I stepped into the hall. Their door, room 7, was ajar. Inside, the bed was perfectly made. A pair of suitcases sat neatly by the dresser, untouched, clothes folded inside. Toothbrushes still in their packaging. It looked like someone had just arrived, but there was no sign anyone had ever slept there. When I asked the clerk, he frowned. "Room 7. Nobody's been in that room for weeks." That night, the whispers returned, clearer this time. "He's watching. Don't let him in." And then 3 sharp knocks, right on the wall where my head had been resting. The doorknob to room 7 tuned it slowly, click by click. Then, with a creak, the door swung open. The room inside was dark. Too dark. The hallway light should have spilled in, but it was like the darkness swallowed it whole. The voices poured out. The woman's trembling, the man's furious. "Don't let him in," she whispered. "He already knows," the man replied. I slammed my own door shut, locking it, pressing my back against the wood, and then knocking 3 sharp raps. This time, on my door. Later, when I checked room 7 again, the luggage was gone. The bed untouched, as if no one had ever been there. The clerk finally spoke. His voice was low. "Couples check in. They fight all night. By morning, they're gone, but the room's always empty. Always has been." That night, the voices screamed, the woman shrieking, the man shouting, and underneath it all, a third voice, deep, inhuman, until finally, a whisper, right behind me, "You're next." By dawn, I told myself I'd leave, but the door to room 7 was wide open again. Inside, the bed was unmade, clothes scattered. The air smelled of seawater. Scratched into the wall above the bed were words. "Don't let him in." Footsteps echoed in the hall. Slow, heavy, getting closer. The shadows on the wall shifted. 2 figures, a man and a woman, and then a third, taller, broader, watching me. The door slammed shut. The last thing I remember is screaming his, maybe even mine, before everything went black. I woke up in my car, miles from the motel. The Pine Shadow Motel wasn't there anymore. Just an empty lot. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear it. The muffled sound of a couple arguing through the walls. The slam of a door. The desperate whisper, "He won't let us leave." And then 3 sharp knocks. If you ever see a flickering neon sign for the Pine Shadow Motel on a lonely stretch of highway, don't stop, because if you do, you might not check out. The first time we slid the keycard into the door, the lock clicked open and a woman screamed from inside the room. But when we pushed the door open, the room was empty. We were just a tired family looking for a place to sleep. That's all it was supposed to be. It was late summer, and we'd been driving for hours along a stretch of highway that seemed to go on forever. By the time we saw the glowing vacancy sign of the Hollow Pines Motor Lodge, it felt like a blessing. The neon buzzed faintly in the humid night air, half the letters flickering. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and something older, mustier, beneath it. The clerk was a thin man with pale skin and watery eyes. He barely looked up as I signed the register. "Room 12, he said, sliding me 2 key cards. Then, almost as an afterthought, he slid a third across the counter. The card was labeled Room 11 in faded black marker. When I asked about it, he blinked slowly. "Oh, must have stuck to the others. Just ignore it." But later, when the first 2 cards didn't work, I tried the one marked Room 11. The light blinked green. The lock clicked, and that's when we heard it. A woman's scream. Piercing. Terrified. But when we pushed the door open, the room was empty. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I heard scratching. Faint, like fingernails dragging along wood. It came from the wall behind the headboard. Then 3 sharp knocks. I pressed my ear to the wall. At first, nothing. Then a whisper. A woman's voice, low and frantic. "Don't use the key again." I stumbled back, my skin crawling. The next morning, I asked the clerk about Room 11. His expression didn't change. "There is no Room 11, Saeed." Flatly. But when I got back to our room, the key card was sitting on the nightstand. I hadn't left it there. That night, the noises grew worse. The curtains shifted, though the window was shut. The air grew colder, heavy with the smell of damp earth. Then the lock on the door clicked. The handle turned. I shoved the chain lock into place, just as the door rattled violently. Emily screamed. Claire clutched her tight, and then silence. When I turned back, the key card to Room 11 was lying on the floor in front of the door. Later, I walked the hallway. Room 10. Room 12. No Room 11. Just a blank wall. But from behind it came the scream. The same scream we'd heard that first night. And then 3 sharp knocks. That night, the TV flickered on by itself. Static filled the screen. Through the haze, I saw a woman's face, her mouth open in a silent scream. Emily woke crying, saying she dreamed of a woman standing at the foot of the bed, pointing at the door. And then, slowly, the key card slid out from under the door. We tried to leave, but the hallway wasn't right. The numbers on the door skipped, repeated, rearranged themselves. And then we saw it Room 11, a door that hadn't been there before. Its number glowed faintly, as if burned into the wood. From behind it came the sound of sobbing, a woman's voice, broken and desperate. "Please, let me out," Claire whispered. "Don't." But Emily stared at the door. She needs help. The sobbing turned into screaming, and then 3 sharp knocks. The door swung open on its own. Darkness spilled out like smoke, and then nothing. We woke up in our car the next morning, miles from the motel. The Hollow Pines Motor Lodge was gone, just an empty lot. But the keycard was still in my pocket, the one labeled Room 11. And sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I hear it again. The scream, and then 3 sharp knocks on the wall beside my bed. If you ever check into a roadside motel and they hand you an extra key by mistake, don't use it, because some doors should never be opened.